Hello and welcome to Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Joining me today is Carolyn Levy, who is President Technologies and Chief Diversity Officer for Randstad Canada. Thanks for joining us today, Carolyn.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Randstad put out just the other day or recently a new report called The Future of Work, Three Big Trends Shaping Business in 2021. I'd like to explore each of those trends with you. And let's start obviously with remote work. It is the story of the year, I think, in many ways for the business world, since the pandemic started. Your survey found 26% of Canadians want a hybrid model, and also 24% want to work from home permanently. Can you talk a little bit about that trend and where you see that going into this year and maybe even beyond?
Yes, it's the concept around connectivity about remote work, right? And it is here to stay. This has now been new ways of work that have emerged, and you can see from the statistics that you shared with our survey, that's representing a good portion of individuals saying, I'm not interested in going back to the office, let alone at all, possibly. So organizations need to be paying attention to that message, especially because going back into the office, we may not have the right structure set up from a health and safety standpoint for what new ways of work are when you're in the office, if you're a few meters apart, et cetera. A lot of local offices are not set up that way. But outside of that, thinking about how we have to transition to remote work being here permanently, it's putting up things like cybersecurity concerns and really looking at cultural concerns. So, front and foremost, organizations need to think about their purpose and how are they connecting with employees that way outside of the four walls, because now the office environment isn't something that's necessarily under their control. So there's a lot of work there to make this sustainable and make employees want to stay with you, is to keep offering the remote work opportunity.
Okay, super. The second trend Randstad identified is accountability and diversity and inclusion. Why is that becoming increasingly more important in today's world?
So I don't think it's a surprise to anyone with what happened in 2020. A lot of significant events came out of it. With COVID-19, we have seen a disproportionate effect to marginalized or to racialized communities. So now employees are demanding to see transparency. So you see that in new large reporting areas that organizations now, you don't have to be mandated to share it, but it's actually to attract and engage employees that you are sharing those statistics. And our survey also let us know what employees are really looking for is primarily training to start with. Awareness is still a big key, but the company investing in offering that training. Also the company really investing in creating a diverse workforce, and then that being also reflected within the leadership as well.
Okay, super. And the final third trend is the Reskill Revolution has arrived, as Randstad calls it. Explain to me what that is all about.
Yes, reskilling and upskilling is 100% on the market now, and Canada has got to get going with this. We're only spending about 81 cents on the dollar in comparison to the US. And what employees are expecting, we saw in our survey, was that 37% are wanting organizations to invest and provide the training that they need to get the skills that they don't have because of the change in the workforce. Specifically because of everything that's happened in the last year going digital, we need to get that going. So employees are willing to invest in themselves as long as they also see a counter investment that's happening from the organization.
So when you're talking about this, the Reskill Revolution, are you mostly focused on, I guess, the technology side and the digital side of how people need to adapt to those changing realities in their workplace?
It's absolutely key. Yes. Before it was, or organizations might have been more advanced in technology. Now it's actually the new way of work, the new way of doing business. So absolutely the technology, we need to do the investment there. It's also as industries are changing as well, right? We see it really strongly in Alberta, in oil and gas. So what can we do in the energy sector to help reskill and then upskill those individuals that have great capacities? Is just a skill that's no longer there. You see it on the accounting side of things too. There's a lot of areas that it's affecting. But something interesting from a Work Monitor report that we did, surveying over 800 C-suite and human capital individuals, was that they feel the skills of the future are around problem solving, they're around empathy, they're around communication, and they're around having an agile workforce. So I'm sharing that because in reskilling and upskilling, it can be intimidating. Coming in and, I'm just about 40 years old and thinking, oh gosh, I got to go pick up some new skills. Organizations are emphasizing the soft skills because you can train in the hard skills for individuals.
What about from an individual perspective? Obviously, we've gone through a tough year. Well, actually, and if you're in Calgary, we've gone through a tough 5-6 years. A lot of people laid off, looking for new work, new careers. So is that become increasingly important in that area as well, to upskill and to reskill yourself, because the jobs that you may have been doing in the past may not be there anymore, right?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a big message not to wait. And if we go to the Calgary market, there are a lot of organizations that are focusing on that. We saw the investment at SAIT into the DX Hub, where they are trying to reskill individuals. We have Women in Communications and Technology. It's also launching its Alberta chapter with an inaugural event happening here shortly. And it's the same thing, to make connections into that space to where organizations are looking for people and people are looking to transition. So there's a lot of those community events for individuals. Reach out and get involved there. You don't need to go one-to-one per se, but there's a lot of organizations, nonprofit organizations that are here to help.
Okay, super. Well, thanks again for joining us today, Carolyn.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, that was Carolyn Levy, who is President Technologies and Chief Diversity Officer for Randstad Canada. This has been Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Thanks for joining us today.